Have you spotted a route yet?
No, it looks like a pretty treacherous climb.
I'll keep looking. There must be another way. Georges, the chapel looks like it's been built right into the rock.
You're right. We should take a look inside.
I wonder, how old do you think the chapel is?
I'm guessing the exterior's a couple of 100 years old, but the inside? Who knows? Some parts could be much older.
You think somehow this chapel might be connected to the face in the rock?
At a guess, I would say so. Hey, look! It's Pearl and Dwayne.
Come on, honey bun. Things ain't that bad.
You just don't understand. Today's been a disaster.
But
The monastery was closed. We got stuck in the cable car. And now this place is a building site.
aw, sweetie pie.
This was supposed to be the spiritual highlight of our trip, Dwayne. But the only spirit I see is that rotten turpentine over there.
Aw, heck.
Clearly, the Hendersons weren't having a great vacation. Wood shavings. This was one building site that needed Mr. Tidy. They smelt exotic. It was an old crank handle. A modern plaster altar had been built against the rock. An empty, coffee-stained mug had been left by the altar. A statue of the Madonna and Child watched over the chapel. An old candelabra hung from the ceiling. Hey, Nico. What should we do next?
Why not find out what the Hendersons are up to?
Pearl.
Shh, she doesn't want to be disturbed.
Great to see you again, Mr. Henderson.
Great to see you too, George. Great work back there with the cable car.
Is Pearl okay?
I wish. I'm afraid we're having one of those days where everything goes wrong.
Tell me about it. What have you been up to since we last met in Quaramonte?
Well, there was that little sideshow in Rome, but we can't talk about that. You know why, George.
I do? I do.
Why?
Top secret.
Need to know, Nico. Dwayne is, snoozer.
Don't you mean a sleeper?
No way, honey. A snoozer's at least 2 pay grades up from a sleeper. So I hear. Anyway, I don't believe I've had the pleasure, Miss,
Nicole Collar. Call me Nico.
Well, how's about that? So this is the beautiful Nico. No wonder you've been hiding her away from me, Georgie boy.
Gosh, no,
It's lovely to finally meet you too, Mr. Henderson. Georges has told me so much about you.
Oh, call me Dwayne, my dear. And let me assure you of one thing. Everything you've heard is quite possibly true.
Dwayne was loud, large, and short-sighted, but boy, was he a charmer. Is there anything we can do for Pearl?
I sure as hell hope so, George. She's been planning and researching this trip for years, our little pilgrimage. And Santa Cova Chapel here was the cherry on the cake. Not a thing she don't know about this place. Madonna, blah, blah, blah. Chapel built in, yada, yada, yada. She's Santa Cova's very own walking encyclopedia. Well, weeping encyclopedia, I should say.
So what brings you to Santa Cova?
Pearl's idea from the get-go. Ever since the unfortunate car accident back home, she's been scouring those pilgrimage brochures. Gotta be full of wonder and life-changing imagery. Got to have penance potential. Got to offer a real spiritual experience.
Well, I'm sure this place will be very spiritual once it's finished.
If the chapel is not what she expected, how about the monastery?
Hot dog, no. That place is for tourists, not pilgrims.
You said she expected a spiritual experience?
No, that's what the brochure promised. Pilgrimages, little monk fellas, singing, shafts of light, the whole shebang.
Smells, bells, and heavenly lights.
Yeah, that's what the lady wanted. Oh, excuse me, Pearl needs me. There, dear.
Pearl could be a mine of information about the chapel, if we could just cheer her up. The view over the valley was spectacular. It was a hammer with a long, thin head, usually used with a chisel to carve stone. It looked like a huge cheese grater. I had absolutely no idea what possible use it could have. A fire extinguisher, with all these lighted candles, seemed like a sensible precaution. It was a half-empty bottle of turpentine. A paint can was hanging from a piece of wood. It looked just like its neighbor. The scaffolding was a little loose. Everything rattled. It made a surprisingly dulcet noise. The scaffolding was a little loose. Everything rattled. It made a surprisingly dulcet noise. It produced a dull sound when I rapped my knuckle against it. It produced a dull sound. It produced a dull sound. It was a half-empty bottle of turpentine. The hammer produced a promising sound. A.
What are you up to?
Look, I made a Churchenspiel. A. That sounded like an A. That didn't sound right. B, if I wasn't mistaken. Wrong. It was rickety scaffolding. Well, that was fun. Nico? So what did you mean by smells, bells, and heavenly lights?
I'm talking about the authentic church experience.
Oh, I see. Smells, bells, and heavenly lights. Got any ideas for smells?
Have you found any incense? Church smells don't get much more authentic than incense.
Poor Pearl.
She's in quite a state. If we're going to find the tabula, her knowledge is key.
So, all our hopes are pinned on an American tourist.
I pin my hopes on an American tourist all the time.
I found a statue over there. A Black Madonna.
Great! What did you find out about it?
That's all I got.
Well, it's not a lot to go on.
Any idea how old the chapel is?
That's what I asked you.
So, we basically don't know anything.
That's the long and short of it, George.
Candles could be heavenly. But Pearl had already claimed this little oasis of spirituality as her own. I needed something more striking to get her attention. Pearl.
Shh, she doesn't want to be disturbed.
Hi, Dwayne.
Hey, George.
Hey, that tune you were whistling earlier, it sounded familiar.
Oh, it's Schubert's Ave Maria. In our courting days, me and Pearl used to hang out with the Campanology Society. It was Pearl's favorite.
Did you see the Black Madonna?
Oh, you betcha. She's the little lady we came to see, though Pearl's in too much of a state to even look at her.
What can you tell me about Santa Cova?
Well, Pearl's the expert, not me. She knows everything there is to know about this chapel.
How's Pearl doing?
She's pretty upset, George.
Well, maybe she just needs a hug.
Is that the best you got? The last time she was in a mood like this, I tried the old hug routine.
Didn't go well?
I still have the scars, not just the mental ones.
How you holding up?
Me? Oh, I'm... Pearl on the other...
I didn't think he'd be interested. He probably wouldn't care. Dwayne, know anything about this?
Sorry, George.
I didn't think he'd be... Good thing we had the radio.
In my line of work, I'm always prepared.
For what?
Well, thieves. I gotta protect my lunchbox somehow, George.
He wouldn't... I didn't think Dwayne had... I would... Dwayne... I didn't... I knew... Dwayne, know anything about this?
Sorry, George, I don't.
I thought maybe a squirt of Brett might cheer her up.
Very considerate of you, George, but Pearl prefers a flowery scent. Oh, excuse me, Pearl. There, dear.
The view over the valley was spectacular. It was a selection of tools. It was a spectacularly unremarkable traffic cone. A fire extinguisher with all these lighted candles seemed like a sensible precaution. It looked like a huge cheese grater. A battered oil drum had been tucked into the scaffolding. My mother always said cleanliness is next to godliness. It was a handful of aromatic sandalwood shavings. Not a snowball. I sprayed the shavings with Brett. Delightful. Never. Not a snow. They didn't go. No, that didn't. Well, it seemed. Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. They didn't. Potpourri, handmade, Grandma's favorite. No, that didn't. They didn't go. Not a snowball. It didn't work. Nico? Poor Pearl.
To find the chapel in this state, especially after so much research.
Hey, do you think she might know what the rock face means?
Maybe, but we're not going to get anything out of her in this state.
Any suggestions for bells?
I'm stuck on that one too. But did you notice Dwayne is whistling something to Pearl?
Is that Ave Maria?
Yes, that's it.
Why don't you sing it, Nico?
Over my dead body.
I found a statue over there. A black Madonna.
Great. What did you find out about it?
That's all I got.
Well, it's not a lot to go on.
What do you think of this place?
If I were an estate agent, I'd say...
It's got potential?
Right.
It was a stone carving showing a kneeling figure. Praying to the Madonna, probably. The Black Madonna was clearly the focal point of the chapel. I lit the candles on the candelabra. It was an empty mug. I put the scented shavings in the mug. The mug contained potpourri, made by yours truly. I couldn't see anything unusual about it. If I stood close to the mug, I could smell the homemade potpourri. The wall here was made of bare rock. It looked like the chapel had been built right into it. Nico? What should I do about the lights?
I don't know. But the Black Madonna is the most exceptional relic here. Maybe we could highlight her somehow.
I found a statue over there. A Black Madonna.
Great. What?
A modern plaster altar had been built against the rock. I decided to exhaust my other options before I started smashing. That wouldn't have worked. Never in a month. That would have been in contravention of at least 2 articles of the Geneva Convention. That's never. That they didn't go. Never. That was. They didn't go to. It was a half-empty bottle of turpentine. That would be pointless. The hammer produced a promising sound. A. Not a pleasant sound. A. G. B. Wrong. G. Not a pleasant sound. A. B. G. B. G. A. It was rickety scaffold. Wrong. B. B. A. A. G. G. A. B. B. A. G. A. 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 B. A. A. B. A. A. B. A. Well, that was fun. Hey, Nico. I have a great idea for smells. We could spray some bread on Pearl.
Well, that's one way to send her to heaven.
Showing that to Pearl while she was in that state wasn't a good idea. Hi, Dwayne.
Hey, George.
What were you whistling again?
Oh, it's Schubert's Ave Maria.
What can you tell me?
Well, she knows every...
How's Pearl doing?
Uh,
How you holding up?
me? Pearl...
I thought maybe a squirt of Brett might cheer her up.
Very considerate of you, George, but
I didn't think Dwayne had anything to add. I was... He would... I knew he wouldn't... Dwayne... Good thing we have...
in my line of...
For what?
Well, thieves. Oh, there.
It was a selection of tools. We couldn't leave now, not when we were so close to finding the tat. If I stood close to the mug, I could smell the homemade potpourri. That was never... I sprayed Brett onto my experimental potpourri. 1 sniff would kill a man for sure. 2 might kill a woman. I sprayed Brett. 1 sniff. That wasn't... I lit the scented shavings. A sweet aroma started to fill the room. Nico? What do you think of the incense?
Smells familiar?
Just like church?
Not quite, but it'll do.
I've run out of ideas for the lights.
Well, candlelight is pretty spiritual.
I found a statue over
Great! What did you find out?
there.
Well,
The Black Madonna was clearly the focal point of the chapel. The Black Madonna was clearly... That wouldn't work.